Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Good day, Mr. Bummies.
Oh, good day, Stevie. What a day it is.
What ho? What ho in the neighborhood?
What ho in the neighborhood? Well, the penultimate episode ever of Star Trek Picard is what ho. I know.
Shock.
And it was one hell of an episode.
It was. How are they going to wrap that up in just one episode?
Yeah, they really made a mess.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I've been wondering where it's going, and now we know where it's going, but it doesn't have long to get there.
A lot has been explained, but there's still a few questions left on the table. Nonetheless, welcome into the program, dear listeners. You are listening to Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast even. And today's stardate is stardate 2390416.2, and we're discussing Picard Season 3, Episode 9, entitled Vox, which is explained in this. It's a what's one heck of an episode. So much happens. But before we get into how great this episode was, we gotta handle a little business.
Are you a super duper trooper Star Trek fan?
Excuse me?
Do you want more Star Trek in your life? You haven't had enough of your fill watching the episodes. You need more. You need to talk with your people. You need to commune with your people. Well, you can do all of that and more on our Patreon at patreon.com/setphasers. We will have behind the scenes meet and greets with us. You can watch Star Trek with us. You can chat with us. Aki might even cook something. Yes, he might. And I might even create a cocktail or two in the theme of some sort of Star Trek. Anyway, if you want to join us, you can do that at patreon.com/setphasers for the measly sum to start with of $2 a month. But do go and join us there at patreon.com/setphasers.
All I can think about after you said you'll make a cocktail or two was Fagin from Oliver singing, "You got to make a cocktail or two, boys. You got to make a cocktail or two." So that's where my head went.
Got to make a cocktail or two.
That's pretty good. Maybe that's the theme song for when you're making cocktails. Well, let's run down this episode. Let's run down Vox. It's time to run it down.
Can you run it down for me? Talk about Picard now. Run it down for me.
Star Trek Picard.
Star Trek Picard. Yes. Okay. Well, hey, last episode, we finally took care of Vadic and the Shrike, and Troy's on the ship, and we're going to deal with whatever weird demon's mental thing is going on inside of Jack's head. They sit down together. They begin what I can only describe as a Betazoid mind meld, where Troy and Jack enter Jack's subconscious, and there's a red door that he wishes to know what is behind, but also wishes not to know what is behind. And they have a bit of a talk there, and the hallway to the doors got the red door and these vine webs, these vein webs, everything being connected. And Jack is remembering a time that he was at the Crimson Arboretum on Raritan 4 with his mom, and he loves how the flowers, they seem separate but they're all connected together. And anyway, Troy's like, okay, well, that's cool. Should we see what's behind the door? She opens the door. She looks. She immediately breaks the connection, runs out of the room. Jack wondering what the hell is going on. She goes to find Picard and Beverly Crusher, and they say, "What did you see in his mind?" And we get a flashback of what she did see as she opened the door. There, floating in space, a Borg cube.
Borg Cube.
Say what? Oops, the Borg are back. The Borg are back in town. It's early.
Please do
This is
that again.
my morning voice. I'm sorry. The Borg are back in town.
I just like that because now I know that you're human.
Listen,
You're not just this awesome singer all of the time. You need to warm up. You need things.
You can't always throw out some high rock vocals, especially if you're the first person. This is the first time you've spoken all day. So Picard and Crusher are confused because Jack has no nanoprobes. How could he be connected to the Borg? But then they realize, or Crusher really realizes as the Doctor, Picard never had Irumodic syndrome. These were Borg devices that are biological devices that were left in his mind after he was Locutus of Borg, and he somehow passed them on genetically to his son, didn't he?
I don't know why you felt the need to do that with a British accent.
I don't know that it was a British accent. I'm not sure it was
It
effectively
was
a British
Cockney.
accent. It was an attempt,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah. I don't know why I decided to say genetically like that.
Because you've still got Fagin in your mind.
Because I've still got Fagin in my mind, don't I? Yeah, you got to pick a cocktail or two. So they want to deal with this, but also there are protocols to be followed, because what's more dangerous than the changelings? The Borg. And Jack has been able to enter other people's minds, as we saw earlier, sort of creating a weird personal sort of micro collective around him to other humans who also have never been assimilated and who have no genetic connector to Jean-Luc Picard / Locutus. So Jack was the weapon the Vadic was looking for, and this might be a vast conspiracy between the changelings and the Borg. Picard goes to talk to Jack. Jack's pretty upset about it. He explains the whole thing, and he's like, hey man, we're gonna go take you to this Vulcan science center, and you just chill there, and maybe we'll figure out what's going on with you, bro. And Jack's like, it's not a science center, that is an institution, you're not keeping me here. He tries to leave, but there is security outside of his door with phase rifles. Well, they forgot that Jack can do what Jack can do, so he takes over those security people and he makes a quick getaway. There's a bit of a father and son tiff there, which is one of my favorite quotable moments. He rushes past his mother, says he's going to figure out what's going on. He's going to go home. He's going to go trade himself for answers from the Borg Queen. And then if she tries to take over him, he's going to show her what's what. And he gets into a shuttle and he accesses his subconscious and he knows where he has to go. He lays in a course. He jams a transponder and he is off. Beverly, meanwhile, upset, takes off to try to find some solution she can while Jack is gone. Maybe some sort of medical solution to this situation. Picard is distraught at the loss of his son. And Data comes and gives him some comfort, but then Geordi calls Picard down to sickbay because there's more to learn about Jack. Meanwhile, Jack arrives somewhere near a transwarp conduit, and what does he see rising out of the nebulous clouds in space but a Borg cube? You know, the thing is, I can't sing right now, but I can make this voice, which will only last for like another hour or so. So I'm really going to try to milk it. Yes, he gets to this Borg cube, he transports on board, and he starts to do some stuff. Meanwhile, Geordi shows Picard this genetic code that was left behind from his assimilation that they could never track, this Irumodic syndrome, which actually turns out to be Borg tech, Borg biological tech, dormant Borg biological tech. And Picard was a receiver, Locutus. The locutor, the speaker, was a receiver for the collective, for the Queen. Meanwhile, Jack is a transmitter, like a little mini queen, I guess. Right? Is that kind of the vibe? Yeah. Anyway. And the changelings wanted the code, and that's why they stole Picard's remains from the Daystrom station. And they wanted to use that, but they're still at this point going through the information. They don't know how Jack is able to send signals to non-assimilated persons, which he's been doing on the ship with his eyes. Anyway, but also it's finally Frontier Day. which means all of Starfleet is gathered around Earth with all the ships, and this is when whatever the Changelings and Borg had planned would go off. And so Picard's like, we have to warn them, and we flash to the Sol system, and the new Enterprise is launching, and Admiral Shelby is celebrating 250 years since the Enterprise NX-01. Everybody go check out Enterprise launched. Then there's fireworks and stuff in space or whatever. Jack, meanwhile, on what I like to call the jacked up cube, because his name is Jack and the cube is kind of jacked up. He beams aboard. The Borg Queen welcomes him home. He's talking to her. He's got his phaser out. But when he finally confronts the Borg Queen, he is unable to shoot her. Shoot her! To reference Jurassic Park, and yet another accent work from me. And when he realizes he is unable to do that, to carry out his whole trade myself and then show her what's what, that's when the nanoprobes swing down on their tentacles towards him, and they stab into him, and his face goes blank. Meanwhile, they're super happy over at Frontier Day because they've got this brand new super cool thing they're doing, because Starfleet never learns that computers are dangerous and you shouldn't give them complete control over everything. They have this thing called fleet formation, which allows the whole fleet to talk to itself and move as one, like a flock of gulls. And they enable fleet formation, so all the ships in the entire Star Trek and Star Trek, in the entire Starfleet fleet are moving in like a cloud of locusts, all together, and so on and so forth. And that is when the Titan arrives, and they're sort of like, gosh, it's like this technology is so Borg-esque. It's like insane that they would even try to do that. Crusher, Data, and Geordi are going through the information, and they discover how the assimilation takes place. Now, hold on to your butts, once again referencing Jurassic Park, because this is how it's done. They took the genetic code from Picard's remains, they found the actual coding, turned it into literal code, used it as part of the transporter architecture, which uses, like, when it's reconstituting things, so it's not doing it from jump, it reconstitutes things using sort of a template. Like, you know, humans have 2 legs and 2 arms, and they also have this weird Borg ironic code stuff. So people, as they've been transporting through the fleet, so the Changelings infiltrate the fleet. They get this transporter, this Borg, oh god, they get this dormant Borg biological code stuff into the transporter architecture, and so everyone who's transporting back and forth is becoming biologically assimilated. It's a pretty great little scheme. I wish I thought of it myself. And so they get there, and Picard then tries to send immediately the Titan is being taken over by the fleet formation. Picard tries to send an emergency message that the Borg are coming, interrupting Shelby's speech. And just as he's doing that, there's a massive energy spike. And guess what? The Borg, assimilation program has gone off. But just as that's happening, Crusher, Data, and Geordi realize, you can't really implicate this code into like grown adults because their brains have finished forming. But anyone under the age of 25 whose frontal cortex has not yet fully been completed is susceptible to this biological assimilation. And so all the young people go Borg, including both of the LaForges, Alondra and Sydney. They take over the ship. It's a disaster. We see Admiral Shelby get basically straight up assassinated. We hear the order come down from the Borg collective, eliminate all unassimilated. And a group that I now will be referring to as the Olds have to make a run for it. So they all leave the bridge, and they're fighting their way out the bridge. The Borg take over the Titan. One ship does manage to get recontrol its bridge, but it's still subject to the fleet formation protocol, and so it is removed from the fleet outside of its own control, brought in front of the fleet, and summarily destroyed. But how was that message got out? It was got out along a maintenance channel called 99 Delta, which I guess the Borg weren't looking at. So anyway, Picard orders everyone to go to the maintenance sublevel because that's where there's no Borg, and maybe they can find a maintenance shuttle, and maybe they can get the heck out of there. So all the olds gather together there down in the maintenance ship, and then they're like, how are we going to get out of here? Geordi has an idea. He gets into the shuttle with Data, but that's when the young Borg start to attack again, and the olds are using stun, but the young Borgs are not doing that. And so they make a last stand so everyone can get on the ship, but one person is critically injured in this attempt to get everyone onto the shuttle as Geordi and Data are trying to hatch their plan, and it is none other than the cantankerous, curmudgeonly Captain Shaw, who takes a critical hit. 7 of 9, stays behind. Are you about to pew pew pew? Oh, you look like you were gonna pew. He takes a critical pew pew pew, and
sure, why not?
That's what happens. He takes one of those, falls to the ground. 7 of 9 stays behind. She tells everyone else to go, but everyone does go except Rafi, who's like, a fat chance I'm going to leave you behind. They manage to finish off the Borg that are down there, and Captain Shaw, in his last breath, gives the con not to Commander Hansen, but to 7 of 9.
She's 7 of 9.
7 of 9.
She's 7 of 9. 7 of 9. 7 of 9.
Woo.
It's 7 of 9.
Man, I gotta
Love
wake up
that.
earlier. I
Love
literally just crawled to this microphone. I wish I couldn't sing along with myself just now. Yeah, so 7 of 9 now has the con of the Titan, even though technically the Borg children have the con of the Titan. And Shaw dies there. The shuttle flies off. Geordi and Data had their plan. They warp to, guess where? The Fleet Museum, because they need a ship, and they need a ship that can't be corrupted by the fleet. The fleet formation thing. They need something that's non-networked, basically, an air-gapped ship. And Geordi's like, well, I was going to say this is a surprise because I've been working on it for the last couple of years here while I've been, the Commodore or whatever he is of the Fleet Museum. And he opens up the bay, and there inside is the Enterprise NC-1701D. The one in the saucer session crashed into the planet and stuff. He's been putting it back together, and it's gonna work. So they all like, hey, this is the ship. It's us, the olds, everyone. What was brilliant about? Okay, I have to get right. Anyway, they fully made it so that basically, even though we love 7 of 9 and Rafi, they had to stay behind. So we truly get the original bridge crew, the next generation, the last next generation, if you will, returning to the bridge of the 1701D, which, whew, what a feeling. Ooh, it's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, I got chills when the turbo lift opens and they come out. Oh my God. And everything turns on. It was so beautiful and wonderful, and it really, it becomes like this weird poetic. All the dialogue becomes very like, what do you think, Captain? Do you think she'll make it? Oh yes, she'll fly. It's like Robert Frost wrote the last 10 minutes of this episode. And so they're like, well, Picard's like, I can't ask you all to do all this crazy stuff, but I think we have to try and save the Federation from this Borg conspiracy. And they all say, what are you talking about, man? Not only are we the crew of the USS Enterprise, we're your family, baby. When you're here, you're family. And Riker says, in fact, Jean-Luc, wherever you go, we go. And so they all take their stations. They plot a course for Earth, maximum warp. The course is laid in. Engage. And here endeth the episode 9 of season 3, the final season of Star Trek Picard, with everyone at their stations once again on the Enterprise. Let's chat about that.
I say, darling, let's do a quick chat about that. Yes, let's do.
Well, what a penultimate episode. The gang are back together. The old set is back together.
Oh, so you watched the after show. So this is the old set.
I did. No.
Oh.
Well, I mean, it's the old Enterprise D bridge was scrapped.
Yes.
So this was completely rebuilt from scratch. Completely, but upgraded, with new technology and all of that kind of stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah, so it's not just plastic on plastic things with lights behind them. Yeah, it's cool
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, there is software in this, so like when you touch it, the colors change and stuff.
Bleep, 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 bleep,
Bleep, bleep,
bleep,
bleep,
bleep,
bleep, bleep, bleep.
Yes.
So you have the original set designer who came back to redesign it, and like the whole thing was redone. And I think one thing that they talked about was the big kind of wooden arch that kind of goes from the bridge to like round, and then you've got your consoles in there. I think that was one of the hardest things to build, I think, originally, and then again, and then to have the because it's also quite small, and then to have your electronics and stuff.
Yeah. And can we just talk about how elegant that bridge is? My God.
So beautiful.
I mean, not
So
only
beautiful.
does it have this beautiful, elegant woodwork, which is insane, but and even Picard says, now that we're all standing here, you know what I really missed? The carpet.
Yes.
And it was, what a moment.
What a moment.
And God.
All back together. It just gave me all the feels.
I now understand why you said you forced Kate to leave the room.
She was talking too much.
Yeah.
Like, get
Well,
ahead.
I was like, I'm watching the episode, like, where is Stevie going to freak out here? I was like, okay, Borg, that freaked me out. Okay. Oh, Jack, that freaked me out. Assimilation is futile. That freaked me out. But then, man, and I sort of like, when they go to the Fleet Museum and he opens, I was like, this is going to be the fucking Enterprise. Anyway, that was great. The thing I was going to say before was, we now know the plot and everything, presumably, but we still don't know who is weirdo flesh the hand guy.
We do.
We do?
It's the Borg Queen.
You think
It's the Borg Queen.
The Borg Queen?
I don't think. I know. Terry Metalis has confirmed it is the Borg
okay.
Queen.
It was just a weird. I guess we haven't seen the Borg Queen's face, but I was like, what a weird looking flesh hand. Please.
And we haven't seen her face because she is quite banged up. Since the last time that she was seen in this timeline was when now Admiral Janeway gave her...
What for?
What for? Exactly.
Okay. This is the Borg Queen that Admiral Janeway gave the business to.
It is. And this is... You hear it. It's voiced by Alice Kriege.
Yeah.
And because initially I was like, oh, maybe I thought it might have been Annie Schwerin prior to her, unfortunate passing. But no, it's Alice Kriege reprising her role from initially First Contact and then Voyager, reprising this role. But you only hear her.
Right.
And we see the back of the Borg Queen.
Yes.
I don't know if I assume we'll see her face, and I assume there will be some sort of reveal about that.
Wild.
We shall see.
They did a very good job of shifting the voice in Jack's head from like Beverly to the Borg Queen, because I was like, are they just changing voices? I couldn't tell which Borg Queen it was gonna be. So there you go.
I wasn't sure if it was gonna be like Jurati, and then I had to remind myself that was actually a different timeline.
Yeah, and that Jurati is like doing some sort of battle it's like has nominal membership or something. It's kind of confusing how that Borgati it's like a different. Anyway, if this is the OG Borg Queen, it's a totally different Borg collective, essentially, which is interesting because it means that all of Picard has been about the Borg, all 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. And in episode 4, I think we were reminded, I think it was Captain Shaw who reminded us that the last time we saw the Borg was 10 years ago, which reminded us that what we saw in season 2, not the regular Borg, different timeline.
Exactly. And also...
It fills in these plot holes that were at the end of First Contact, and how was Picard able to hear the Borg when, So now we've essentially fixed this plot hole that we had.
And also, the beginning of season 1 was him being like, well, I'm dying because of these old Borg implants, because of this aromatic syndrome business. Well, we didn't know the two things were conflated. And then now, so it's really a beautiful, anyway, watching the end.
Overarching, beautiful. Like, they've really thought this through.
Yes. Watching the end of this episode, this is the first time I felt this way. Because I was watching something, not because of something internally, made me want to go watch TNG season 1, episode 1, all the way through to the end of Picard now. Like, all 7 seasons, 4 movies, 3 seasons of Picard. This, like, if they're wrapping this into a beautiful bow, it's like a beautiful epic story. It's like, anyway, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the end here.
It's brilliant, and it's so well written. And, you know, how many shows get the opportunity to wrap things up in this way, you know?
All the original
to go
cast.
back and yeah.
War. Okay, so all right, so that was my only question was about that, and well. Thank you very much for listening. You're back once again at Set Phasers News Desk. We go immediately to the Easter egg desk with Stevie Man. Stevie, how are we today?
Well, hi there, Aki. Hi there. It's good to be here. It's good to be here on the set of Picard Season 3, Episode 9, the penultimate episode of Star Trek Picard. Star Trek Picard.
Star Trek Picard.
Oh, I mean, I just feel like this entire season has just been Easter eggs. So openly Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Just everywhere. So let's start with the Crimson Arboretum on Raritan 4.
Yes.
So as Jack and Deanna try and get that red door open, Jack remembers visiting the Crimson Arboretum. Now, we actually saw Raritan 4 at the beginning of Season 2, if we recall. And it appeared to be populated by Deltans. And the Raritan itself is actually a real city in New Jersey.
Yes, I've driven through Raritan, New Jersey. I didn't know that they were the same thing. Yeah.
Well, we assume. But the other sort of fun thing about it is that obviously Terry Matalas worked on 12 Monkeys. And it was also the site of Project Splinter in 12 Monkeys, which was a time machine. And on top of that, the Crimson Arboretum itself is probably a reference to the Red Forest, which is a time-altering concept in 12 Monkeys. So we just, we think that Terry Matalas has been having a few callbacks to 12 Monkeys, just, I think, for fun. Anyway, the Borg. So many references to the Borg in this episode, obviously. And early in the episode, we hear dialogue from the TNG episode, The Best of Both Worlds. And also the revelations about Picard's ability to hear. We talked about this when Picard told Troy he could hear the Borg when they tried to attack Earth at the start of that movie. And so now, again, we've wrapped up this lovely little plot point. And what I mentioned earlier about which Borg, I apologize, it was Beverly who said no one had seen or heard from the Borg in over a decade. So there we go. But Shaw pointed out in episode 4, the Jurati-led Borg were from an alternative timeline which had nothing to do with Borg in the Prime universe. And so now we know that, the last time that we saw the Borg was in Voyager. But it's so curious because over a decade means that the last time the regular Borg appeared would have been sometime before 2391, roughly around the time that the Borg cube known as the Artifact went offline before season 1. And I'd kind of forgotten about the artifacts. So how prominently the Borg has featured, as to your point, Aki, season 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Which is quite fun. Let's see. Jean-Luc tells Jack he came close to killing everyone he knew and everyone I loved, referencing those events of The Best of Both Worlds. He also references the Borg Queen saying that Jack can't know what she can make you do. So we don't know how Jack's going to be used. Yes, foreshadowing the arrival of the Borg Queen, as we see, played by Alice Kriege, which we love. Did you know she also played, I can't remember if we talked about this, but she also voiced the Borg Queen in Lower Decks Season 2?
We did, yeah. We didn't know how significant it was, but yes, I remember that.
Yes. We will see her in the finale, and Terry Matalas confirms that it is Alice Kriege. And again, she's not going to look good because Janeway did a number on her.
She sure did.
Yes. Oh, there were lots and lots of Easter eggs, but the whole season has been doing callbacks to some of our favorite characters throughout the TNG era, including none other than Admiral Shelby, who was, I think, Lieutenant Commander Shelby at the time. If you remember The Best of Both Worlds, and she had quite an animosity between her and Commander Riker.
Yes.
She was like, I want your job.
Yeah. And he was like, what?
Yeah. And she talked with Jonathan Frakes and Will Wheaton. the ready room, and she talked about how she was like when she went to cons back in the day versus going to cons now, and how she said the fans have kind of moved on, because I think their perception of her was as a bit of a bitch,
Right.
and now their perception of her is as a badass.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the way that she is as a female leader, the perception of her has changed over the years, which is really nice to hear. So yes, anyway, the Enterprise D, obviously we get to see that, and so the whole thing about the saucer section that now clarifies. And what was quite fun about it, because Geordi says, thanks to the good old Prime Directive, the saucer section was retrieved from Viridian 3 so as not to influence the system.
Yes, exactly.
So I love that there was a reason to retrieve.
Right, the Prime Directive, it's perfect sense. And of course, Geordi's been working on it. He's the Commodore of this station, and he's, I just like to roll up my sleeves and work on the old hoopty out in the garage, the old Enterprise, gonna save her for a special occasion, who knows what. I mean, fascinating.
But my favourite Easter egg of the entire episode, nay, the entire season.
Oh my.
Yes. Is the voice of the computer as voiced by Majel Barrett.
Please do not address this unit in that manner.
Yes.
Gene Roddenberry's wife, who passed away some time ago. I think it was, I'm not actually sure, I don't have the year written down, but this is the first time we've heard her voice in a new Star Trek show since 2009, when she was the voice of the computer in the first J.J. Abrams reboot movie.
Security authorization accepted.
Yeah. Yes.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. And I love, the computer, or Majel Barrett, recognizes Picard as captain and not admiral, which I love. So that was possibly my most favorite Easter egg of the entire season, getting to hear Majel Barrett's voice again. I just love her as the computer.
Yeah. Everything about that, like I said, the last 8 minutes is just this magical
beauty.
Yeah, it's
beauty
incredible.
on the screen.
Every aspect, from the look at the ship outside, inside, to addressing the computer and the computer voice.
I do wonder. I don't know this, but I would love to know if the crew got to see the bridge before they acted on it.
Oh, interesting.
Wouldn't it be great if those were sort of their genuine reactions going onto the bridge? I don't know, but I thought that would be really cool if that's how they did it.
Well,
because
that's how it hit me. Yeah,
it's how it hit me. But yes, anyway,
that is everything from me here on the Easter egg set of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 9, Fox. It is back to you in the studio, Aki.
Thank you very much, and we go immediately to quotable moments.
Quotable moments.
Yeah, there's a couple very cute quotable moments, and then there's a couple dire Borg quotable excuse me. I burped in the middle of saying, but dire Borg quotable moments. Listen. I loved Picard saying, "Oh yes, she'll fly." I don't know why. I want that on a t-shirt. No one will ever understand it. One of my favorite moments was as they're trying to get that shuttle out of the Titan, and Data's like, "I don't know if this is going to work." And Geordi says, "Data, could you try being a little more positive?" And Data says, "I hope we die quickly." Ugh, so good. Do you have anything you'd like to share?
I'm going to share one right now, and I think it was Troy, and she said, I've never been so happy to see so many wrinkles.
Yes, that's when I decided I was going to call their group the Olds. It was great. They're all like, oh, God. Thank God we're all old and not assimilatable. I made up a word. The intense moment between Jack and Picard early on, when Picard says Starfleet protocols dictate that we act in the interest of everyone else, and Jack says, "And what about the protocols of a father? Or were you never issued those?" Ugh.
Pew, 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 pew.
Pew, 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 indeed.
Pew,
Pew, pew, pew.
There we go. It's probably a bit overkill, but...
That was a lot. Yes. And of course, I will share the... I also love just a few little things that Troy says. Nothing is more elusive than a door the mind doesn't wish to open, which I think is a throwback line. And Symbols have nothing but meaning, which I also would put on a t-shirt. And then I don't know if you wrote this down, and I don't want to steal it from you, but obviously this little Borg monologue when they take over everything. Feel free if you...
No, it's all you.
Okay. Deliver this with aplomb. A message to those who resist. Your armada has been added to our own. Your weak and willful will soon be eliminated. Your strongest have already been assimilated. We are Borg. Starfleet is now Borg. Gotta love that.
Beautiful.
And then they go, like, start flying towards the planet, like, let's kill everybody. Yikes. But also wonderful. And then the last thing I have, which actually, I don't know if we're set up for this, but the final words of Captain Shaw. You have the con, 7 of 9. Which makes me think perhaps it's time for a little faith of the heart. Captain Shaw, you were an asshat. None of us liked you. You talked with food in your mouth, and you were rude to Jean-Luc Picard and to William T. Riker. But when Geordi showed up on your ship, you were super cute because, as you are a self-described grease monkey from Chicago, you loved an engineer. And in the end, you understood that Commander Hansen was Commander 7 of 9. And you died to get your people off the ship. And for that reason, you have faith of the heart. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. As you were. I will. He was a great character. I sort of was like, yeah, I was like, he's going to die. He went on a journey, but I sort of knew he was going to die. I was like, it's because Seven's got to take over the ship, baby.
And you had to have someone who, like, they had to earn it. You know, you had to, like, dislike them, and then you're like, oh, kind of like you. And he had some really good lines.
Yeah. He came around. Well, shall we move on to next time?
I think we should.
Next time on Set Phasers. Well, next time, our final next time for Picard, we will watch the season finale, the series finale, and the TNG finale of this story arc. So please do join us. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this episode, please find us wherever you get your podcasts. We have podcasts for Picard, Discovery, Lower Decks. We're getting it all in, baby. Strange New World. So find us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen to us talk about, get weepy about how wonderful Star Trek is.
That's pretty much what we do here at Set Phasers. But don't forget, you can, of course, join us boldly going on patreon.com/Set Phasers. What are you laughing at?
It's like boldly going on Patreon.
Yes, we do. Patreon.com/Set Phasers.
Yes, we're also on the social medias. You can find us at Set Phasers Podcast. We do what we do when we do it.
Right. Should we... Are you frozen? No.
No. I just felt awkward about how I ended that sentence. I didn't freeze.
Got it. Well, that is wonderful. Well, that is it from us. I am Stevie Mans.
And I am right, true, purposeful, perfect. And this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.